Yo, what's going on, guys? Savage here. Today we're going to be covering my advice on how to get better at mouse and keyboard for Warzone. And honestly, this goes with any game, but again, because of binds and things like that, we're going to be focusing specifically on Warzone. Now, before we get into it, make sure you hit the like button on the video, subscribe to the channel today, and follow us over on Twitch. The link to that will be in the description below. This is the second tutorial I have for mouse and keyboard. If you guys would like to check out the first video, I will link that in the description below as well. Also, guys, this might be a very long video. I don't know, I haven't recorded it yet, but this may be a very long video, so I will timestamp each and every tip and point in the description as well. So if you guys want to just kind of skim through it, feel free to do so. This video is for you guys, not for me. All right, I know that going from controller to mouse and keyboard is overwhelming, and it's infuriating, it's frustrating, and it's a challenge. Mouse and keyboard is definitely better in a lot of aspects as opposed to controller, but at the same time, controller has a lot of pros that keyboard does not. So let's go ahead and dive into the benefits with mouse and keyboard as opposed to controller. There are two main benefits that I want to focus on. One being, of course, more keys. Seems like common sense, and it really is. I definitely recommend getting a mouse with more than just a left click, right click. I have a Logitech G502, not an ad, not a sponsor. It's just a mouse that I really like to use. Got multiple side buttons, so I can use that for throwing tacticals, throwing lethals, pinging enemies, things like that. Definitely helps me out. And of course, your keybinds are endless. If you don't like the way your hands sit on the keyboard, you can change whatever you want to be whatever you want. And also, guys, too, and this is something a lot of controller players bitch about when it comes to mouse and keyboard. You know, mouse and keyboard bitches about controller has aim assist. Controller bitches about mouse and keyboard is just it's too goated. The ceiling is too high, and they're kind of right. The best thing about mouse and keyboard, in my opinion, is the precision, the accuracy that you can eventually obtain. Now, it is a learning process. You will have to train, you will have to practice. And guys, if you don't have a lot of time to practice, if you have full-time jobs and things like that, there are ways to do that within the game without having to actually go into a private match and just shoot bots for 6 hours a day. All right, guys, so the second thing I want to talk about is your mouse sensitivity. Now, when it comes to sensitivity and DPI settings, the options are endless. You really just got to find what works for you. Mess with it for a couple days. If you don't like it, if you just can't hit your shots, mess with it, and we're going to go over each and every setting. Now, I will tell you guys, as far as my DPI is concerned on your mouse, mine is 800. I like 800. I think it's a perfect balance. I used to run on 1600, 3200, and so on and so forth for different games. But when it comes to Warzone in particular, I lowered my DPI to 800 just because it's more easy to control your movement. It's easier to be fine-tuned and precise with your shots. Now, again, keep in your head, my DPI is 800, so I run my mouse sensitivity at 12. Once more, this is legitimately just personal preference. Find what fits you. Don't just do it because I do it. I do recommend maybe starting with the settings that I have and then getting a feel for it. Now, when you come down to advanced, of course, you have your vertical sensitivity multiplier, leave that at 1, your ground vehicle multiplier, air vehicle, tablet sensitivity, leave all this at 1. This is really not going to impact the game that much. But right here, your aim down sights mouse sensitivity, I always put mine at legacy. I like legacy. I enjoy legacy. Basically, legacy for me, it makes it feel like my movement's smooth. For some reason, relative, when I would move, it would speed up. So I go with legacy. Now, this right here, if you guys played Blackout, you'll be familiar with the setting for sure. Your ADS sensitivity, I have mine at a 0.5 for low zoom. This is close range, AR, anything like that. As far as your ADS sensitivity for your high zoom, I keep mine at a 0.51. That way, if I aim at somebody, my crosshair will not be uncontrollable. The higher the sensitivity, the smaller the movement to make the biggest move. So basically, if my sensitivity is at 1 and I accidentally move my mouse a little bit, it would fling all the way to outer space. So I lowered my sensitivity so that if I do have a little jitter in my hand or something like that, or I bump my desk, it won't move my crosshair that much. Also, when you're sniping, this is for my sniper tips, but just give you a heads up, when you're sniping, you always want to have your crosshair on the target before you scope in anyway. But regardless, 0.41 is just something that I benefit from. Now, ADS transition timing, instant for sure. Gradual and after zoom, definitely don't even worry about that. As far as your sensitivity is concerned, the higher your sensitivity, the harder it is to be precise. Now, your movement may be fluid, maybe able to flick on people faster, but when you're switching to mouse and keyboard, you want to focus on precision. So I always recommend running a lower sensitivity, a lower DPI, a lower ADS sensitivity. That way you can just focus on precision. Now, once you get better and you progress, of course, raise your sensitivity a little bit, get your flicks better, get your movement better. You can work on that. But your main goal right off the dump is focus on precision. Now that brings us to our next point. Point number 3 is aiming. Honestly, guys, when it comes to aiming, I think a lot of you guys could aim real easy and real efficiently. The problem is a lot of you guys try to jump into it head first, and instead of taking your time, lining up the crosshairs and pressing the trigger, you guys are just flicking shots, trying to be quick, trying to be fancy with it, and you're shooting too soon or shooting too late. Don't worry about all that. After you've gotten your precision down and tracking targets down, then you can upgrade to flicking shots and being a badass. If you're getting the mouse and keyboard, like I said, just be calm, be patient. The kills and skill will come and progress. Just line up your crosshair, take the shot. It's as simple as that. When it comes to mouse, remember, the mouse is basically like the right joystick of a controller. This is how you look around. Just like you would do with the R3 on the controller, just do it with the mouse. It's easy. Patience is a virtue, and it's a huge necessity when it comes to mouse and keyboard. A lot of people ask, Savage, how do I fix my aiming? How do I get better at aiming on mouse and keyboard? This shit's overwhelming. I just can't handle it. Practice, honestly. But I'm gonna give you guys a few tips to kind of help you understand what you need to do to get better and more efficient with it. Now, I will tell you, when it comes to mouse and keyboard, kind of like controller, I don't know if you guys played on controller a lot, but there's always a gaming posture. When I'm playing on controller, I sit forward with my arms on the desk and I have my gaming posture. If I'm leaning back or if I'm doing something different, for some reason, I just don't play A1. Now, when it comes to mouse and keyboard, you want to find a position for your hands to sit in. I like to have my keyboard slanted a little bit. I find that if it's straight, my arm has to kind of tuck in a little bit and it's just uncomfortable. I don't like have it perfectly straight. So I want to cant it a little bit. That way my arm can relax and just be loose. You don't want your hands and your joints to be tense when you're trying to be precise with your movement. Otherwise, you'll end up fat fingering your keys, or you'll just grip your mouse so tight that it's impossible to be precise. So as far as your keyboard hand's concerned, this is how I prefer mine. Of course, it's up to you guys to figure out what your gaming posture is. Same thing with the mouse. So basically, this is how I sit. Instead of your arms together with your keyboard straight and your mouse right here, I like to have my little spread out. And of course, everyone's body is different. Some people are wider, some people are more narrow. So find what's good for you. But I like mine to be loose. I like my elbow to hang. I do not like having my seat hold my elbow. I find that when I do that, especially with my mouse hand, it's hard for me to flick. It's hard for me to move my wrist because my elbow is used to sitting on something. If your elbow gets used to sitting on an armrest, guys, it's gonna get lazy on you and you're not gonna realize it. So always, I don't even use my seat rest. I can literally remove these things that are absolutely useless or garbage. As you see right here, my arm is nowhere near my armrest. So basically, here's my armrest and here's my arm. I want a gap. I don't want it to touch at all. That way, if I want to flick, I can. If I want to go up, down, left, right, as you know, my elbow moves. So basically, this is the layout I like. I like a long mouse pad. That way, if my hand's sitting on the keyboard and I'm getting a little violent with it, it's not going to move. And as far as the mouse is concerned, I have a lot of play with it. Now, unfortunately, until my monitor mount comes in, the Go XLR is going to be sitting right here. Otherwise, I would have my mouse pad well over here and my keyboard a little over so I could have more mouse pad to flick with. Because right now I'm basically running to my mixer. But that's just me. That's a temporary setback. But guys, I want you to learn from my mistakes. So basically, when you're holding the mouse, do not grip it. You don't need a death grip. You need to just be relaxed on the mouse. Legitimately just relax. There's no reason to death grip it. Now, when you're in a fight, you guys need to be conscious of the fact that you're death gripping it. I promise you, if you're in the middle of a fight, you guys are holding on for dear life. What happens is, if you hold on, your precision, your accuracy gets nerfed because you're just putting so much emphasis on it. You're not moving fluidly. You're jagged movements. You're just here, you're there, as opposed to just simple movement, if that makes any sense to you at all. Don't squeeze the mouse, keep your hand relaxed, and also find a balance again with the sensitivity that just works for you guys. There's no shame in just loading up a custom match, messing with your settings, change your sensitivity, play with it for a second. Oh, I don't like that. Change the sensitivity again. Oh, I don't like that. And just keep doing that. It might take 30 minutes tops. It's not an all-day process. It's very simple. Just takes time. All right, guys, I know we talked about a lot of this already, but we're gonna go ahead and focus on just mouse binds. As you can see, my mouse has 1, 2, 3 binds on the side. It's got 2 right up here. And then of course it's got left trigger, right trigger. And then it's got the scroll wheel. Now this right here is just as far as DPI settings. We don't need those buttons. But I do have this button as my pinging system. I do have these 2 as my grenade and lethal, and I do have this one as my push to talk. Now I can do everything with my mouse while I'm shooting and ADSing. That's kind of the key you want. Leave both your middle finger and your index finger on the respective keys. Even though my fingers are still on right click, left click, I'm able to throw a tactical, throw a lethal, or ping an enemy. All right, guys, for video purposes, I'm going to scoot my keyboard over. That way you can see it. It's a little uncomfortable for me, but that's fine. So a lot of people have left in my comments, hey, Savage, I can't get comfortable on mouse and keyboard. I just can't move my fingers around the keys and hit them without fat fingering them or without stretching my finger to the point where it's just uncomfortable. And there's a solve for that, guys. So what I like to do and what I started doing when I first switched to mouse and keyboard was, of course, you want to rest your middle finger on W. That's pretty given. A lot of you guys who've never used mouse and keyboard before, that might be a new concept to you, but that's exactly what you do. Keep your middle finger on W, your index finger on D, your ring finger on A, and that's basically it as far as those 3 fingers are concerned. Now, your pinky is personal preference. I will tell you, as far as getting new and used to mouse and keyboard, I tell people to go ahead and put their pinky finger on the control button. Now, I have E as melee. I try not to use melee as much as possible, and I definitely would recommend unbinding this. Guys, if you're getting used to mouse and keyboard in Warzone, I definitely think E shouldn't be on your keybinds at all. because the chance of hitting it while walking or reloading your gun is going to be pretty high. Now, of course, R is my reload. F is how I open doors. Now, of course, you can open door normally, or if you ADS on the door, you can open slow and then you can kind of walk through a little bit. That's what I have binded to F. Now, because that's binded to F and I hit F so often, whether it's that or picking up loot or whatnot within Warzone, I unbinded G to begin with. I would recommend try to avoid binding G to your grenade just because you hit F so often in Warzone, you might fat finger it. However, if you don't have a mouse that you can bind your lethals to, then you might just want to leave it at that and just practice not hitting it. Also, guys, because of crouching and because of drop shotting and things like that, you want to always practice, maybe like before you start playing, leave your middle finger on W and just navigate your index finger from C to X and just get your fingers used to being stretched like that. A lot of people have stiff hands, especially left hands. Controller players don't really need to stretch out their left hands for many reasons at all. Maybe if you're used to scuff paddles and things like that, but for the most part, you won't need to use your left hand on controller. But keyboard, your left hand is going to be moving like a son of a bitch. Now, I also recommend disabling the Windows key. I have it enabled for this video here, but basically, guys, if you accidentally hit the Windows key, you accidentally in the middle of the match, your game minimizes and you're brought to your desktop. This has killed me a few times in other games, and I definitely recommend you guys get rid of it for Warzone. Also, guys, when it comes to changing your weapons, try to avoid hitting 1, 2, 3, 4. Get used to using your scroll wheel. That way, if for some reason you're trying to outmaneuver and outmove a player, you can keep your fingers on your movement and not worry about having to stop what you're doing to switch your gun. That way I can sit here and run and maneuver and switch my gun back and forth and not really care what's going on. Multitasking on mouse and key is key. You want to be able to do multiple things at the same time. And if you go to change your weapon, unfortunately, your movement is now hindered. Sorry, I made you guys nauseous from that. Just wanted to get my point across. So basically, guys, when it comes to mouse and keyboard, just keep it simple. Make your binds what you think would be comfortable for you. Try stretching your fingers from key to key. Always leave your middle finger on W, and also try to utilize mouse binds as much as possible. Now, I hope this video helps resolve a lot of the questions you guys asked me in my last video that I posted about how to get better at mouse and keyboard. But if it did not, please leave a comment in the section below. Ask me some questions. Come over to my Twitch channel, ask me some questions. If you guys want to go ahead and DM me on Twitter, Instagram, feel free to do that as well. I will try to get to everybody. But I've been getting a lot of good ideas from the comment section. So guys, if you want me to make another video on certain things, as far as movements and things like that, please let me know. Again, I'm here to help get everybody better at Warzone. Warzone's a frustrating game. Trust me, even as an intermediate player, I still struggle. But y'all have a good one. Good luck in Warzone, and I'll see you in the next video. Yo, guys, what's going on? Savage here. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on the video. Let's get this video to 1,000 likes, and also follow me on Twitch. If you guys want to watch my last video on how to get better at mouse and keyboard, click right here. That covered different aspects of mouse and keyboard. And also, here's the latest tip video as well if you guys are interested in that. But guys, y'all have a good one. Take care. Good luck in Warzone.